Welcome to Dumping Brains. I'm Nicole,
I'm Janine.
and today we're doing an impromptu session because we're both having a little bit of struggles with some topics, so we decided to record it.
Yep, here we are.
So we're not in our normal sets. We're at home in our regular clothes. As you could tell, I'm just in a tank top. And so this isn't our normal setting, but we needed to connect with each other.
Yes, dump our brains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
What's coming up for you?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh. I don't know. I get into these funks when, like we're all home and there's not really an agenda for the day, and so sometimes I feel like our energy is just like bumping up against each other, and I feel like we should just get out of the house. We should change it up, but nobody really wants to go anywhere. So I get really frustrated, and I just think like an ongoing theme is a lot of I'm having a lot of judgment about like how much yelling and just like discourse there is at times. And I think also, I look through it. It's like, when it rains, it pours. Like when it feels bad, it feels really bad. Like it feels like, is this just how we are all the time? Or is this just a phase? And when I'm in the phase, I feel like this is all we ever do.
When you say
scream.
we, is that just you and the kids, or does that include hubby?
Yeah, James is involved, but it's more like I'm trying to rope him in because they're all coming at me. So I'm just
you feel
can
attacked?
You go, go yell at your dad for a bit. How about that? For a change. And I don't know that it's not like I don't think there's any strategies to stop it. I think I rather like I was listening to our reality, one where I know it might not end up becoming a podcast, but the reality conversation we had where you kind of start feeling stuck in that box of how you view things. And I feel trapped in viewing this as wrong and bad. And then that just perpetuates the problem and continues the downward spiral because I'm already mad that things are happening this way. And then I yell, like I'll respond in a way that I wouldn't normally because I'm already feeling so, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I feel shitty, so therefore I act shitty, And it's like, instead of trying to figure out how could I maybe shift it, I'm like more propelled deeper into it. And then once it kind of gets so far, I feel like, forget it, like the day is ruined. And I get to that real extreme thinking. So it's just this stupid cycle I get into. And I kind of wish I just had more acceptance.
Thank you.
I wish I had more.
Can you explain that?
Oh, I just wish I had more acceptance of where things are at instead of always trying to fix it. Like this is life. Like we're going to have our issues, and I don't have to be the one to fix everything or make everything look a certain way. Yeah, so it's frustrating. Just mad.
Are you okay with some questions? Or are you just
I mean,
to help me understand the situation more, not necessarily in terms of like dissecting like how you're feeling. I'm just trying to get my mind around like what's actually happening. So is it like is it the topics that are upsetting, or just the yelling, or how you're communicating? Like I'm kind of not grasping the situation as well as I would like to try to kind of picture what's happening for you.
Yeah. I don't even know if I could explain it because it's not like a specific thing. It's just a feeling from different situations that kind of happen one thing after another. And I think I'm a little hesitant to just share specific things because I don't want to also I don't want to get stuck on a specific topic of what's happening because it's really my feelings around it that I'm trying to be with, because I think this is where we get trapped in trying to think it's situational. I think that's why it's hard for me to even talk about, because I'm so lost in it, like to bring it to the table. I know it's messy. Like it's like, here's my mess. And I don't think that I want anyone to like clean it up or make it pretty. I just think I want like validation, camaraderie. Like that sounds, really hard. And it is hard, to be stuck, feel stuck. And that's why I think I connected to your reality one, because it's hard to feel stuck in a place where you can kind of see outside of it, but you can't really move yourself in that direction. And like how do you just find peace with being in the unease of that, of things not looking the way that you might want them to or think they should? Because I feel like once we start down that road of like things don't look how I think they should, or I can't really like break outside this thought, then you're still like you're more stuck. You're more stuck in it. It's like the thing that you resist persists kind of thing, right? Like I don't know how. See, and I don't think I have the right language to even explain it because it's such like this internal.
The only reason I'm making all these faces is because you brought up the reality episode, and in that episode, I was saying what you're saying, and you said, but you're naming it. You're naming where you want to be, right? And that's half the battle. But yet what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm misinterpreting, but what I'm hearing from you is you don't want to name it because then you feel like if you name it, then you're trapped with it. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I think it's kind of talking about it from two different angles.
Okay.
So I don't know. I guess like in the naming it out loud to someone else is different than sort of the naming it to myself. Because once I say it out loud to someone else, then it's like it creates a life of its own and it may not actually be what I'm thinking inside my head. So it becomes something separate. But naming it to myself, where it's only in my reality and I can make sense of it, right? Because I'm me.
Right.
Then it might be a slightly different feeling of going, oh, this is this expectation I have that I'm not meeting, and that I'm feeling trapped in that expectation. Like I see it, but I can't undo it. So I guess that's where I'm feeling maybe the difference in it. But I think, for the reality piece, when we were talking about naming it, it was like not naming it like a specific name, but naming the fact that you feel stuck. Just saying that I feel stuck in this thought and I can't get myself out of it. In of itself is a movement, right? Instead of, because you could be stuck in it and not even realize it and just continue on that same cycle and beat your head against the wall. But I do feel like and that's why I like having these conversations, is like just naming the thing, not like giving it a label. I think maybe I'm using a term that doesn't make a lot of sense specific to this situation, is like not labeling it specifically, just saying I'm naming it out loud that I feel trapped in my thinking. And in that, you're already kind of stepping outside of it, right? Because you see that you're trapped. Like a trapped animal may not know, even like they don't have the cognition that they're trapped. They're just like trying to get out, flailing against it. But I think we have sort of that extra sense to go, oh, I'm stuck here. And what can I do with that? Or can I just be with that and then figure out if there's an action that needs to be taken, I guess. Because that's where I think I get stuck, is like, what is the action? Is there an action, or is just naming it to myself enough? Right? Because like you were saying, like I can't just make myself not think this way. Right? You just can't make that leap and be like, oh, I'm good. I saw it and now I made the choice to think different. And you can't really do that. And I think that's where I trip myself up in getting stuck in my loop, is like I'm wishing it's different and it's not, and it's yucky and it sucks.
Do you feel, I don't think disconnect is the right word, but it's what's coming to mind at the moment, but do you feel a disconnect in your process between, oh shoot, I just lost what you just said. Maybe naming it, was that the last thing you just said?
I don't even know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Whatever you
I'm
just
lost
said,
in my own thought.
whatever you just said at the last part, and then you said the action piece. It seems as if maybe there's like you can process yourself on this side with naming it and living in the moment and all of that, but then it sounds like there might be some sort of window or disconnect or unable to make a decision if it's an actionable item or not. And I just because you mentioned that, and so you questioned whether or not you should act upon it, and so I'm wondering if these feelings that come up, and maybe they're different ones each time, or they may be reoccurring, might keep happening because you can't name whether there is an action that needs to happen, whether it's with yourself or with the other people. Because to me, actions tend to make me feel better, whether it's just simply deciding I'm not going to think about that anymore. That's an action. Or I'm going to tap into myself a little bit more. That's an action. So I'm wondering if you're silencing yourself in a way.
Somewhat. But that's also like the action was maybe having this conversation,
Right.
Instead of it just like brewing inside my head, or at some point I might have the conversation with James. But I think the hard part about having the conversation is that I'm not even clear about what the problem is. I just know that it feels yucky, and that this feels familiar, like this happens again and again. And then I'm not really clear though if there is is my goal to make it stop happening? No, because I don't know that that's even possible. I mean, we're human. We're going to have these butting up against each other situations. So I don't think there's any like way to make it not happen. I think I'm just wishing for a different way of being with it so that it doesn't derail me so much.
Feeling a different way of feeling.
And dealing, with it, when it's happening, instead of it being like, I'm a failure. This shouldn't be happening because if I had X, Y, and Z in place and my kids were blah, 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 then these things wouldn't happen. Or if I wasn't so quick to, yell, then my kids wouldn't be such yellers. Like it's my fault, So there's kind of comes these places where I just throw myself under the bus when it happens, and all of my old stuff is triggered. And I think that's what I'm wanting to do less of, because I don't think I don't want to control the situations so that they don't happen, because that's not realistic. It's more, how can I show up to them differently? I don't like the same program that I've been doing for all these years. I'd like to feel different in my body when it happens.
Okay, so the things that came to my mind, and this is just me wondering, is you want to show up differently. So is there, for yourself, for yourself, so that you can handle whatever situation is in a manner that you prefer, whether that could be flying off the handle at that moment. That might be what you want.
And maybe that's okay. Like, I feel like I can't give myself permission to have my response. And the minute I have my response, I'm like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Why did you do that? Look what you're teaching them. And then you're mad at them when they do it. It's like, this is a double standard here, So I'm wanting to be more accepting, I think, of everyone having their feelings. Like, you're allowed your feelings.
Yeah. It brings me back to the conversation we were having on episode 2, I think it was part 1 and 2, but about how if we could show up and say, this is who I am today, basically accept me for who I am today, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that is a form of structure, right? And we've talked about this a lot, of how I like my little boxes and I like all the things to be certain ways so I can have expected outcomes, and it keeps me calm and comfortable, right? But yet I wonder if doing that would become the expected outcome and the structure and the box, because by showing up and saying, this is who I am today, it's letting them all know, this is who I am today, and this is how I'm going to be reacting, and I'm okay with who I am today. And then that way, you've named it, you've honored it, you haven't pushed it down, whatever side of it that may be. You don't feel silenced.
Yeah.
And so maybe possibly the triggers might be lessened because you're honoring yourself in that moment instead of letting the triggers drive you.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because that's something James actually suggested a couple weeks ago. He's like, why don't you just let me know who's showing up? Like, hey, is it anger here today? Is frustration here today? Like, I laughed at it and I thought, okay, that's fun. But I found myself not being able to do it. I couldn't say it in the moment because there was so much internal dialogue, you know, saying you're shit, this is stupid, you're already trapped, nothing's going to change, you know, whatever it is, the litany of things that kind of are my silencing, I guess, mechanisms that just say, and then I'm then reacting from like autopilot rather than really meeting the moment, because the autopilot is all the things I believe about myself all the time, which is you're not good enough, you know, all the things that get triggered. You're not enough, you're not a good enough mom, you're messing them up, you're whatever gets triggered, and then that like is so loud I can't really even do anything else but be in it, you know, and even to be able to name it would be having to step out of it a little bit, which is hard to do because I'm already kind of down that slippery slope.